Hi everyone, it's Tamara here with another card making tutorial. This card was actually inspired by a recent card that I made for one of my Insta friends in the States, but I wanted to just darken things up and make it a little bit moodier than the one that I made for her. I'll be using the Altenew Forever in Love stamp set for this card making tutorial. It comes with 2 floral images as well as lots of sentiments. And I'll be also using the second of the Pink Fresh Studio Slim Ornate banner dies. So I've got a piece of Copic Express at cardstock cut to size, and I'm just going to pop that in my Misti and just work out where I want my stamp to sit. So I will be cutting this down with the banner die, but I'm just going to get this centered to kind of roughly where I'm wanting it, and then we can cut it out with that ornate slimline border from Pink Fresh. So I've just got that lined up roughly where I'm wanting it. Pop that in my Misti, and I'm making sure it's just down in my bottom right hand corner, and using my Memento Tuxedo black ink I'm going to stamp that up, giving it a good press down to make sure I get a nice impression. Now I wanted to do another coat, so I made sure that it was still tucked back in that corner position, gave it another press, and now we've got a beautiful stamped out image. So we'll grab out the middle of these dies. So this doesn't actually have any patterning on it, but it was the perfect size for this particular card that I was wanting to make. So I'm just going to line that up roughly with where I'm wanting it on my card front. And once I'm happy with that, I'm just going to grab out some of my purple tape so that I can hold that in place so it doesn't move when I run that through my die cutting machine. So I'll just pop one up the top and just another one just down this side, and that way that won't move when I put it through my die cutting machine. So I've got my plates in order, pop in my image with the die cut, just make sure that's lined up, pop the top cutting plate on, and we'll pop that through our die cutting machine. We'll just give the roll through, and these dies just cut beautifully. So now we've got the perfect cutout banner, and I'll just be popping the sentiment down below. You can pop it up the top, but I thought down below was quite nice, and we'll leave a bit of white card space up the top. Now I'm just going in with my lightest color to work out where all my shadow areas are going to be. So obviously where any petals kind of peel out from one another, they'll be throwing a little bit of shadow on the back of their petal, and obviously any petals sitting over the top of other petals will be throwing a little bit of shadow as well. Now, as I said, I'm going to be making this card a little bit darker and a little bit moodier than the one that I sent my friend in the US. So I'm using BV25. It's got quite a lot of grey tone to it, even though it is a BV marker, but I thought it would work really well with the red markers that I'm going to be using, because they kind of have that little bit of a grey tinge to them as well. So I'm just popping in all my little shadow areas where they'll fall with those petals, and now we'll bring our red markers in now. So the darkest marker that I'll be using is the R85. So all these other colors I used in the original, which I will show you at the end, the original one that I made, but it just doesn't have the BV25. So but it has all the rest of the markers that I'll be using for this colouring if you did want to make the lighter version than what I did. So now that I've kind of blended out that shadow area, I realised I missed a little bit down the bottom, so I'm going in with that BV marker again and with the red 85. Now we'll blend that out with the R83. These are some of the original markers that I bought when I first bought my Copics. I thought they were just such pretty pink colours, but I've actually found I haven't really used them a lot in recent times, so I was really happy to get them out again because they are such pretty markers. So we'll blend out, and that one will be quite in shadow down the bottom, and we do want to put a little bit of shadowing even where those like top petals that will obviously be getting most of the light. You do want to put a little bit of shading onto those as well, but I didn't put the darkest colors on those. So we'll blend out with our second lightest color, the R81, just slowly working in little flicking motions into that white space, into our highlight. And then we'll bring in our first marker again, which was the RV00. to go up to our highlight. So what I'll do off camera is actually go in and give that another go over. I'd like to just reinforce that so you can see how much darker it went, but I didn't want to show you the exact same color because I did exactly the same thing as I did the first time, but I just went over, and you can just see how much that deepened up the colors on that flower. So, but I'll show you how I did the coloring again with the second flower. So again, I went in with my lightest marker, the RV00, to set out where all my shadows are going to be. And now I'm just going in with our darkest marker again, the BV25. So I'm just only putting a very small amount of this on because it is quite a dark color, but it just adds, I think, such beautiful shadowing and a dimension to our flowers. So now I'm going over that with the R85 and just kind of flicking out just a little bit to get a nice kind of blend out. So again, just working a little flicking motion so you get a nice area to be able to go off. And I did realize I missed a few little spots there, so I've gone back in with those two markers. And now we'll bring in our middle marker, our R83, and just working that R85 out and working up into our highlight spaces. So we see we've got the petals over the top there. It will be quite deep and dark in the middle of those flowers as well. So we'll go our second lightest color. So I've fully colored the inside of those middle sections of our flowers because they'll be quite behind where the light is. And now we'll go in again, just putting a little bit of shadow area in our real highlights, and we'll go in with the RV00 to finally fill in all the highlights. And again, I went over a second time and just really reinforced our shadows, so you can just see how more vibrant that color is once you go over it a second time. So now I'm going to go in with my lightest green marker to work out where the shadows of our leaves will be. So we see wherever any of the berries will be coming over the top, or any of the flowers will be leaning over the top, you'll have in shadow. And also where you can see some of the leaves turning up over themselves, they'll be throwing shadows as well onto the leaf. So I'm just doing a small amount of the G29. That's going to be my darkest color. Just kind of coming out from where it comes out from the stem, and again, as I said, where those leaves kind of flick over on themselves. The flowers will be throwing a little bit of shadow, and obviously any of the berries and the flowers will be throwing a bit of shadow in these areas quite a lot. So put a little bit more color in here because they are quite behind where the flowers are. And again, where that flicks up and kind of comes around, we'll be throwing a little bit of shadow. We'll blend that out with the YG67, just slowly working up into our highlight space. Just, you can see just the little flicking motions, which really help get a nice smooth blend when you're adding all your colors in. So we'll just work that down, and remember to go around where that petal will be throwing a shadow. And then you'll have a little bit of highlight at the end here where the sun will be hitting that, or the light source. And our next color, our second lightest, will be YG63. Just again, just flicking out from that. I did want to put a little bit of shading on the ends of these top leaves, kind of where they bend up, and then at the very top we'll be putting our lightest highlight color. Just working that slowly down, so obviously anything kind of underneath will be in quite a bit of shadow. So only have some small highlights of our lightest color on these leaves. And we'll bring in that lightest color that we first started with, which is our GV40. So I'm flicking from the dark colors top and bottom, wherever, if I've got the dark colors both sides, you want to flick up from both of those areas that you're blending. But these side only have it from the one, so we can just flick straight out. And then this one's only the one. And just the very one down the bottom, you've got the two to kind of flick up and in towards each other. Now I'm going to finish off with the berries, and I'm just going to keep these really simple. So I'm going in with my lightest color first, the BG10, to get a little bit of shadow. So they'll be all kind of like shadowed underneath, or where any actually fold over from the other berries or the petal leaves. And we've got then mainly at the bottoms, these ones will be all in shadow. There's not too much over the top of those. So that was our darkest color, the BG13. Blended that out with the BG11. And then we'll come back in with that original color, and we're just going to leave a little bit of a white highlight. So we're not going to bring that BG11 right to the top. Oh, sorry, the BG10. We're only going to bring that up a little bit, and that way it gives that nice white shine at the very top of those berries. And that way you don't need a white gel pen for that. You can just have that white cardstock doing the highlight work for you. And that's all the colouring done. So we'll grab out our Misti again, and as I said, you could put a sentiment top or bottom, but I wanted to put it at the bottom and then just have some kind of clear white space up the top. So I'm just lining that up in my Misti door, making sure it's up in the right hand top corner. We'll give that a stamp with my Versamark Onyx black ink. Again, check that it's right up in that right hand corner before we re-stamp, so we know it's going to be in exactly the correct spot. And I'm just going to give it one more stamp to get a good impression, and then we'll set that aside to dry. Now that that's dry, I've cut and scored a slimline pink card base. I'm going to get some glue on the back of our banner panel and get that adhered to the front of our card. So I'm just making sure that this is going to be even on all four sides, just leaving a nice pink border around each side. You could do a nice white card as well, but I wanted to bring out the pink of our flowers with our card base. And this is a finished card for this tutorial. This is such a pretty stamp set, and I think you could use it for a variety of different cards. As I said, I made this one for a friendship card, so you can see it is a lot lighter. So I didn't use the BV25 in this card that I made for my Insta friend in the States. So it is a lot kind of, I think, prettier, where this one's a little bit more moody. So maybe the right one's for more romantic, left one is for maybe friendship. I'm not sure what you think, but maybe leave a comment below if you wanted to let me know which one you prefer. I hope you've enjoyed this card making tutorial. If you have, please hit the like button. And if you'd like to see any future videos, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.